They told us we were free, free to chase the American dream. They painted a picture for us with a white picket fence, two cars in the garage, and a golden retriever wagging its tail, a picture of hard work and honest reward, a picture of freedom. And for generations, we believed it. We believed that if we just worked hard enough, stayed in the lines, and never gave up, that dream was ours for the taking. But what if that entire story was a lie? What if the dream wasn't freedom at all, but a brilliantly disguised form of modern slavery? Think about the images they sold us: the high paying job, the beautiful house, a life of comfort and self determination. They showed us a straight path from school to career to family to retirement. But reality is a jagged line, a line that zigs and zags and often ends in burnout, a line that feels less like a path and more like a treadmill, always running, never arriving. We are told that if we are struggling, it's our fault. We must not be working hard enough. We must have made bad choices. We must not be waking up early enough or manifesting correctly. This is the ultimate deception, because what if the problem isn't the individual? What if the problem is the system? When two-thirds of a nation lives paycheck to paycheck and can't afford to pause or breathe or plan for the future, that's not a flaw. That's not a glitch. That is the system. It's a machine designed to demand endless productivity while promising freedom, but delivering exhaustion. It's a culture that tells you to chase financial independence, but hands you a lifetime of debt instead. A society that says you are free, but binds you with invisible chains, chains made of mortgages, rising healthcare costs, and student loans that you'll die before repaying. The American dream was supposed to be about self determination. But what kind of freedom is it if your very survival depends on your obedience to a structure that benefits from your fatigue? We're not saying that ambition is bad or that success is a lie, but maybe it's time to ask a more uncomfortable question. Is the American dream really about freedom, or is it a sophisticated form of modern slavery? Not slavery with whips and chains, but with contracts, expectations, and shame. A slavery that tells you you're lucky just to have a job. A slavery that masks itself as opportunity, but rewards only the few who were never playing the same game. It's not just about what we were promised, it's about what we've been programmed to believe. And it's time to start questioning. And this is where the deception begins to unravel. This is where we start to expose it. But first, do us a favor and take a moment to subscribe. We are digging into some incredibly deep topics, and we don't want you to miss what we uncover next. Now, let's talk about the mind. It's not just that the system extracts your labor. The deeper problem, the more insidious problem, is that it also reshapes your mind. Because when you're this tired, you're also far less likely to ask questions. The story of humanity is a story of power. And as Friedrich Nietzsche saw it over a century ago, the most effective power isn't brute force, it's something far more subtle. He called it slave morality. Not a morality forced by chains or threats, but one that grows inside us, subtle, silent, and voluntary. Nietzsche believed that societies don't just control people with rules, they shape the way we define good and evil, so that we end up controlling ourselves. And here is how it works. In a world where power is out of reach, the oppressed, those with little to no power, begin to praise the very traits that keep them subordinate. They start to glorify humility, obedience, and endurance, not because those things are inherently good, but because they are the only values they can afford to have. In a world where ambition is punished, they redefine virtue as submission. They begin to believe that good people suffer quietly, that the right thing is to be patient, compliant, self-sacrificing. They internalize struggle as noble and view ambition with suspicion. And over time, they police themselves. Sound familiar? It's the same morality at the heart of our modern hustle culture. We are told to grind, to push through, to wake up at 5 a.m., swallow our exhaustion, and keep moving. We wear stress like a badge of honor. We brag about never taking a break, about being always on. We post photos of our calendars, packed from sunrise to midnight, and call it discipline. But what is it? Really, it's glorified servitude. It's slave morality, rebranded as self-help. We have come to believe that overwork is a sign of virtue, that if we are tired, anxious, and burned out, it means we are doing life right. And worst of all, we shame those who step off the treadmill. We call them lazy or undisciplined. as if the only way to prove your worth is to bleed for a system that never bleeds for you. Nietzsche would have told us this isn't virtue, it's conditioning. He saw that the morality of the masses often serves the interests of the powerful. When we learn to worship endurance, we stop asking who benefits from our suffering. When we glorify perseverance without purpose, we become easier to manage, easier to exploit. You don't have to be in chains to be enslaved. Sometimes all it takes is a belief, planted early, repeated often, that your suffering is sacred, that your exhaustion is meaningful, that to rest is to fail. So, who does this belief really serve? It serves the employers who profit from unpaid overtime. It serves the corporations who measure your worth in metrics, not in meaning. It serves a culture that fears what might happen if people actually pause long enough to question the game they're playing. And so many of us keep running, not toward freedom, not toward fulfillment, but because we're afraid of what slowing down might reveal. Nietzsche challenged us not to blindly accept inherited values. He called on us to create our own, based not on fear or submission, but on strength, courage, and the will to live authentically. But to do that, we must first see the cage, because no system is more effective than the one that convinces its captives that they are free and that suffering is a sign of virtue. Now, if Nietzsche showed us how morality can be used to condition people into obedience, then Machiavelli takes us further. He shows us how power can be maintained not through fear or violence, but through perception. Niccolo Machiavelli, often misunderstood as a cynical strategist, simply understood reality. In his view, the most effective way to rule was not through brute force, but through the art of illusion. As he wrote in The Prince, a leader does not need to be virtuous. He only needs to appear virtuous. People, he observed, are more easily managed when they believe they are choosing their own fate. And that is exactly how modern society functions. We are told we are free, free to choose, free to pursue success, free to be anything. But this freedom is carefully shaped. Beneath the banner of liberty lies a complex web of obligations, designed to keep us working, consuming, and never questioning the path we're on. This isn't some wild conspiracy. It's a structure that exists in plain sight. And the numbers, they speak for themselves. The average American household carries over $100,000 in total debt. Student loan debt in the US has reached over 1.7 trillion. And perhaps the most devastating statistic is this: more than 60% of personal bankruptcies in America are tied to medical expenses. This isn't happening in a poor country, it's happening in the richest one on earth. Now ask yourself, what kind of freedom leaves people bankrupt for getting sick? What kind of autonomy requires you to choose between paying rent and affording insulin? This isn't liberty, this is dependency, dressed up in patriotic colors. And Machiavelli would have admired it, not because it's just, but because it works. The threat is no longer jail or exile. It's losing your job, your health care, your home. It's being buried in interest rates, late fees, and bills that never stop coming. And the genius of it all is that you think you signed up for this. You took out the loan, you clicked, I agree. You accepted the terms. The illusion is complete when the cage is invisible and the prisoner believes he's free. Meanwhile, the system offers just enough choice to make you feel empowered. New phone plans, political parties, online degrees, but never enough choice to truly escape. You are encouraged to keep running, don't stop, don't ask why your 40-hour job doesn't cover basic living costs, don't ask why your health is a commodity. Just keep chasing the next milestone and believe it's progress. Machiavelli warned rulers to never let the people see the structure beneath the stage. In modern times, the stage is brighter, more entertaining, more personalized, but the structure remains. Power doesn't need to punish the masses if it can keep them occupied, indebted, and just hopeful enough to believe tomorrow will be better. And that is how control operates today, not by restricting movement, but by shaping belief, not by silencing dissent, but by making sure you're too tired to speak. This is how modern power endures, not through tyranny, but through a carefully crafted illusion of choice, a narrative so persuasive that it convinces people to finance their own captivity. Until we confront not only the results of the system, but the myths that sustain it, we will continue to live in a story written for us, not by us. But illusions don't just keep you obedient, they keep you exhausted. Welcome to the new form of slavery, a system not built on chains and masters, but on deadlines, debt, and dopamine. In this system, your worth is measured by your output. Your value is determined by how much you can endure without breaking. And for millions, that pressure is no longer metaphorical, it's physically unbearable. Think about the stories you've heard of workers urinating in bottles because they weren't allowed enough time for bathroom breaks. That's not a dystopian novel. That's real life in one of the wealthiest corporations on earth. Workers moving so fast under so much pressure they can't stop to meet basic human needs. And this pressure, it doesn't just exist in warehouses, it's in offices, restaurants, hospitals, and homes. Whether you're behind a cash register or on back to back Zoom calls, the expectation is constant. Stay productive, stay available, stay grateful. The glorification of overwork has become the new gospel. We wear burnout like a badge. We brag about 12-hour days, celebrate no days off, and compete to see who can function on less sleep. But behind the hustle, there's quiet, desperation. The pressure never ends. The goalposts keep moving. And no matter how fast you run, you never quite arrive. Then comes the second half of the trap, consumption. The same system that drains your energy is the same one that sells you relief. After work, you scroll, you shop, you compare. Social media bombards you with curated lifestyles, luxury, and success stories that make you feel behind. Your phone tells you that your kitchen isn't modern enough, your wardrobe isn't stylish enough, your life isn't good enough. And to soothe that insecurity, you spend. You buy gadgets, skincare routines, online courses, anything to feel like you're progressing. But the high never lasts because comparison is a game you were designed to lose. The system feeds on your exhaustion and your insecurity. It tells you to hustle endlessly, then makes you feel inadequate no matter how hard you try. It keeps you working for things you don't need to impress people you don't know while quietly convincing you that this is freedom. But this is not liberty. This is dependency dressed up as ambition. And the most brilliant part, you blame yourself. If you're not succeeding, it's because you're lazy. If you're overwhelmed, it's because you lack discipline. So you push harder, dig deeper, grind longer, never realizing the machine was never meant to reward you, only to use you. We've been taught that suffering is noble, that exhaustion is admirable, that to rest is to fail. But what if fatigue isn't a sign you're doing life right? What if it's a warning that something is deeply wrong? This is not a glitch. It's the design, a system that demands everything from you, your time, your focus, your peace, and gives you just enough to survive. Not enough to rest, not enough to think, just enough to keep going. This is modern slavery, not enforced by chains, but by subscriptions, not controlled by masters, but by metrics. You are free to choose any path as long as you stay inside the maze. And unless we see the cage for what it is, we will keep calling it opportunity. We will keep chasing freedom down a corridor that only leads back to the starting point. Because the hardest prisons to escape are the ones we don't even realize we're in. But no illusion lasts forever. Sooner or later, something breaks. Maybe it's your body, maybe it's your mind, or maybe, just maybe, it's your belief in the system itself. That's where the awakening begins. Not with rage or revolution, but with a quiet, piercing realization. You were never truly free, but you can be. Nietzsche told us to go beyond borrowed values, to stop obeying systems that strip us of joy and call it virtue. He challenged us to build lives rooted in authenticity, not obedience. And Machiavelli, in his own way, reminded us that power lies in perception, that if you don't understand the game, you will be used by it. But if you do understand, then you can rewrite the rules. So what does that mean for you? It means you get to ask the question most people are too tired to ask. Am I living my own life or someone else's idea of what my life should be? That's the real revolution. Not rage, not rebellion, but reclaiming your agency, your attention, your decisions, your direction. It means stepping off the treadmill, not because you've given up, but because you've finally woken up. It won't be easy. You'll be told you're wasting your potential, that you're not playing the game right, that you're being unrealistic. But what's more unrealistic? Spending your one precious life in constant exhaustion or choosing a path that actually feels like yours. You don't need to burn bridges or quit your job tomorrow or move to a cabin in the woods. You just need to start with one simple shift: awareness. Start seeing where your energy goes. Start noticing what makes you feel alive and what quietly kills you. Then begin to choose, piece by piece, the life you actually want. A life defined not by what you consume or accomplish, but by what you value, by who you are when no one's watching. Because true freedom isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't need a slogan or a sales pitch. True freedom is quiet. It looks like presence, like peace, like waking up and knowing this day is mine.